Okay.
I think she's in custody, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you. And proposed announcement to the court, Mr. Watts.
Your Honor, it's my understanding she sent me a letter, let's see, November 2nd of this year. I've spoke with her on the phone a couple of times since that time. It's my understanding she simply wants to surrender her probation and finish her time.
Thank you. Rhonda will go on the record. Case is entitled State of Kansas versus Therese Cherie Thomas, 21 CR 14. State of Kansas appears by Assistant Butler County Attorney Amber Norris. The defendant, Ms. Thomas, appears in person and by court-appointed counsel Jim Watts. Also appearing at this time is Intensive Supervision Officer Christy Ashenfelter with Community Corrections. This matter does come before the court this date on the warrant to show cause docket. And announcements to the court, Mr. Watts.
Your Honor, I received communication with Ms. Thomas on November 2 of this year. I spoke with her on the phone at least once since that time, I think twice since that time. It's my understanding that she simply wants to surrender her probation. So it sounds like there'll be a stipulation of the violations, and she would acknowledge the violations and surrender her probation in this matter to serve out the balance of her time.
Thank you, Mr. Watts and Ms. Thomas. Mr. Watts has advised the court you do wish to stipulate to being in violation of the terms and conditions of your probation. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand by making this admission, the court could very well revoke your probation and order you to serve the balance of your sentence previously ordered?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you had adequate and sufficient opportunity to consult with Mr. Watts prior to making this admission here today?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Thomas, it is the finding of the court that you are in violation of the terms and conditions of your probation. And the court does make inquiry, Ms. Thomas. Is Mr. Watts correct in your wishing to surrender yourself and serve the balance of your sentence previously ordered?
Yes, Your Honor.
And subsequently, that will be the order of the court. Anything further to come before the court, Ms. Norris?
Does Your Honor waive additional attorney and bids fees for Mr. Watts?
How long is the incarceration?
Your Honor, she has been in since October 25th, and she's got another
The underlying here.
35 days or something like that.
Thank you. And Ms. Thomas, do you currently have any money saved to pay court-appointed attorney fees?
No, Your Honor. I'm just working as a trustee. We do not get paid. I do not have funds.
Court finds you do not have the financial wherewithal to reimburse for court-appointed attorney fees, nor the bids application fee pursuant to Kansas Supreme Court case, State versus Robinson. There being nothing further to come before the court, court is in recess. Good luck to you.
And Your Honor, can we take up the Gage matter next? It's a motion for a judgment on bond.
Yes. Cases in Rhonda will go on the record. Cases entitled State of Kansas versus James Dale Gage, 22 CR 273. State of Kansas appears by Assistant Butler County Attorney Amber Norris. The defendant, Mr. Gage, does not appear, however, does appear by his attorney, Jim Watts. Matter does regularly come back before the court this date on the motion for judgment on bond. Also appearing at this time is the bondsman on the case, Hot Rod Bail Bonds, and I believe that's Miss Nail that's appearing. And announcements to the court, Miss Norris.
Your Honor, we did file a motion for judgment on bond back in August. This date was set at that time. We did send notice to Mr. Watts, the defendant, at last known address, which was on the bond, and then also to Hot Rod Bail Bonds.
Thank you. And I believe I stand corrected. The party appearing for Hot Rod Bail Bonds is Kelly Pickering. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Very well. And any idea where Mr. Gage is located?
Your Honor, I was just going to ask for a little bit more time if it's possible. He's no longer living here in El Dorado. He was on Star Street for, I think, most of his life, and his mom hasn't heard from him in a few months. And we talked to his brother, and he thinks he's staying somewhere in Wichita. So now we're just trying to track him down in Wichita. But I was just going to ask for another, like, maybe 45 or 60 days if possible.
Okay, the court does grant the motion for approximately a 60-day continuance of the motion for judgment on bond. And Chris, what is our warrant to show cause docket date in January?
We're gonna go off record, Judge, for scheduling.
Yes,
Which month did you say, Judge? I'm sorry.
it's January.
January? It'd be January 19th at 2:30, Judge.
Thank
That
you.
would be Zoom.
We'll go back on the record, and the record may reflect all parties previously appearing. This matter is set back before the court on the state's motion for judgment on bond, Friday, January 19, 2024 at 2:30.
Thank you.
Friday, January 19, 2024 at 2:30. There being nothing further to come before the court is in recess. And go find them, Kelly.
I'm going to try. Thank you.
Okay.
And Kelly, how do you spell your first name?
Kellie.
Thank you. And Pickering, Pickering.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I think we're ready to go on Mr. Smithson.
Okay. And proposed announcement to the court, Mr. Watts, in regards to Mr. Smithson.
Your Honor, let's discuss the allegations of the warrant to show cause with my client. And it sounds like he disputes those allegations and we need to have a hearing.
Thank you. Rhonda will go on the record. Case is entitled State of Kansas versus Ryan James Smithson, 19 CR 473. State of Kansas appears by Assistant Butler County Attorney Amber Norris. The defendant, Mr. Smithson, appears in person and by court-appointed counsel, Jim Watts. Also appearing at this time is Court Service Officer Tony Bauer. This matter comes back before the court on the warrant to show cause docket. And Mr. Watts has announced this matter for trial prior to going on the record. And Ms. Norris, you may call your first witness.
Your Honor, State Call CSO Tony Bauer.
And Mr. Bauer, if you'd raise your right hand, I'll administer an oath. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please proceed with direct examination, Ms. Norris.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your name and occupation for the record.
Anthony Bauer, I'm a court service officer for the 13th Judicial District.
And how long have you been a probation officer?
I am just over 2 years with this office.
Okay. And how long you're familiar with Ryan Smithson?
Yes.
And why are you familiar with Mr. Smithson?
Mr. Smithson was placed on probation with me in December of 2021.
Okay. And the individual that you know as Ryan Smithson, do you see him on the screen today?
I do. He is wearing the plaid shirt in the box labeled Court Security 1.
I would ask that the witnesses identified the defendant, Ryan Smithson.
The record may so reflect.
And Mr. Bauer, did you get Mr. Smithson when he was initially placed on probation, or had someone else been supervising him during his probationary period?
He was placed on with me directly.
Okay. And did you request revocation of his probation in December of 2022?
I did.
And explain to the court why you made that request.
The request was made because he had missed appointments. He had law enforcement contact that he did not report as he was directed to. He was supposed to report it within the next business day, and he did not report it for, I believe it was almost 2 weeks. He also was ordered to get a domestic violence assessment, follow recommendations. He did complete the assessment, but he never completed the classes that was recommended.
And so explain the missed appointments, how many and when that's.
This warrant was based off of him missing the appointment on November 3rd. He then called on the 13th of November, left a message, which was a Sunday. He called back on the 16th to report. And then I scheduled him to report December 2nd of 2022, and he missed that appointment as well.
Okay, so he missed basically 2 months in a row reporting.
Correct.
Okay, and
He did report in November. He reported about 13 days late.
okay, so even though he reports late, you still note that as a missed appointment.
Correct, because he did not call the day he was supposed to.
Okay, so he misses his appointment November 3rd, and then again on December 2nd, both in 2022.
Correct.
And you note that he, in the warrant specifically, it says, has not completed anger management class. Explain that violation.
He was ordered to get a domestic violence assessment. That assessment recommended that he attend a one-day anger management class, and he has never completed that. When I talked to him in November, it still had not been done. And then I have not had any contact with Mr. Smithson since November 16th. I know a portion of that he has spent in DOC, but he's never provided any proof that he has completed that class. And as of the 16th of November, 2022, he admitted he had not completed that class.
Okay. And then a bit more detail, if you would, on the third violation: did not report law enforcement contact in a timely manner.
So condition of probation is if he has law enforcement contact or certain changes in things, he needs to report that the very next business day. He had law enforcement contact. He was arrested on September 12th of 2022. He did not report that until September 22nd, 2022, when we had a meeting, and I asked him if he had law enforcement contact. At that point, he said yes. He was arrested for driving while suspended. That is the only thing he told me. However, he was actually arrested for driving while suspended and possession of marijuana.
Okay. And the date that he reported to you, that was more than one business day after the arrest.
Correct. It was 10 days later.
Okay. And have you previously requested a warrant to show cause on Mr. Smithson before this one in December of 2022?
Yes, there was a request filed March 7th of 2022, and we had a hearing on that one in July of 2022.
Okay.
Mr. Watts, can you mute your microphone? You got some background noise.
And Mr. Bauer, what is your recommendation at this point based on your time supervising Mr. Smithson?
My recommendation would be that the case be closed, he be revoked, and then however the court wants to handle that revocation. But I would recommend it be closed. He's been on probation for right at 2 years now. I know he spent, I believe it was around 9 months or so in the Department of Corrections on some cases out of Sedgwick County that was prior to this probation. But he really not showed any intent or desire to report. When he got out of jail, he was bonded on this. He's not reported at all since that has taken place. He's really showed little desire to want to report and showed no desire to want to complete the class. It's a one-day class, and he knew in June of 2022 that it needed done, and as of November, he still had not completed that class. I don't think he has any desire to complete the stuff that's needed to complete probation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bauer. I don't think I have any further questions for you, but Mr. Watts will probably have some follow-up, okay?
Yep.
Cross-examine Mr. Watts.
Thank you, Your Honor. You indicated that he missed his meeting on November 3, correct?
Correct.
Okay. He actually called on November 13.
Correct.
Correct. So now 13th happened to be a Sunday, correct?
Correct.
Which obviously you're not going to set up a meeting on the 13th. It's entirely possible, in fact, fairly likely that he misnoted the date or misread his reports as the 13th instead of the 3rd. Is that possible?
I suppose it's possible.
And then when he realizes the 13th is a Sunday, he realizes he's missed it. He called again shortly after that on the 16th, correct?
Correct. He did call on the 16th.
And then, of course, you indicated that you set up another meeting on...
Sorry, Jim, I need you to slow down and start over with your question.
You indicated that he missed another meeting on December 2 of 2022.
Correct.
and he missed that one, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Last thing I want to touch on. You indicated that he was arrested on on September 12 of 2022.
Correct.
Okay. Now, if a person is arrested as law enforcement contact and they're to report that within one business day, how are they to report that?
They can send a letter, they can call, however they choose to make that contact.
But they need to do that promptly.
Correct.
Okay. Now, in this case, you indicated he didn't report it until his next appointment on December 22.
Correct.
You didn't receive any phone calls or messages from him regarding that prior to that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Okay. Nothing else. Thank you.
Anything further, Miss Norris?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Norris. Any further witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Watts, any evidence to present?
Yes, Your Honor, would call Mr. Smithson.
Sir, if you'd raise your right hand, I'll administer an oath. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, please proceed. Be sure to wait till the question is asked, Mr. Smithson, and then speak distinctly into the mic. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Smithson, would you state your name for the record?
Ryan James Smithson.
And you are the person that is named in this warrant on probation in 19 CR 473. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, before we get to this particular incident, let's kind of fill in the last year or so. It is now, as we do this, mid-December of 2023. Where have you spent much of 2023?
I was incarcerated in DOC custody.
When did you enter?
I need to make a clarification. You said we're in the middle of December?
Middle of November.
Okay, you said December. I'm just asking for clarification.
When did you enter DOC?
I entered in December, or I was incarcerated right after court. I was sentenced to the DOC in December 15th, I believe.
Okay, so you entered incarceration December 15 of 22?
Yes.
That would have been in county jail over in Sedgwick County, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When did you, and then you transferred to DOC at some point, correct?
Sometime in January, yes.
Okay. When did you get out of DOC?
August 18th of 23.
And upon your release from DOC, did you immediately contact Mr. Bauer?
No, I was served papers from the county jail of Butler County that advised me that I had the first appearance or whatnot for the violation.
Okay.
They told me that to just report to the court, and it would be situated from there. Because I asked them if I needed to report, they said no, just go to the first hearing. And
okay. So you have a probation violation that is filed, and the copy I have in front of me is not file stamped, but I presume shortly after December 6th of 2022. Is that right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The probation violation that you received, when was it filed?
I'm not actually sure.
Okay. When were you served it?
I was served on August 18th.
Okay.
When I was in Butler County Jail for the detainer of a misdemeanor probation violation.
Okay. You bonded out on that August 18 date?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Where have you been since?
I've been at my residence. I've been in the hospital quite a few times. That's why I missed last month's court date. And my health is not good, so mainly at home. That's where I reside.
Okay. Were you reporting to your probation officer during this time?
No, I wasn't instructed to.
Did anyone tell you not to?
They never told me not to. They never told me to report.
Did you inquire about reporting during that time?
I did. I asked at the Butler County Jail if I need to contact my probation officer. They said, no, you've got a hearing set up for the back when I first got out. They said they could sort it out from there.
Now, let's go back then a year to November of 2022. It's alleged that you had a meeting on November 3, and you left a message on the 13th. You've heard that testimony.
Yes, I have.
Can you tell the court, to your recollection, what happened at that time?
I believe that I was also I might have documentation that I was in the hospital at that time for over a week. I believe that I got the dates mixed up for the 3rd to the 13th. So it's a while back. I don't have a real good memory right now, but I can remember making several phone calls and never receiving answers back.
Let me ask you about that. Did you have a habit of calling court services and leaving messages on a fairly regular basis?
Yes, not only his, but I was also on probation in 2 other in Sedgwick County. So when they say that I don't call, how come I can call within 24 hours of them, but I'm not doing it for him? Why would I do it for 2, but not all 3?
Okay, when you called on the 13th, you were told that they would set an appointment on December 2. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you go to the December 2 meeting?
I believe I was in the hospital at that time. I can go back and get hospital records if I need to.
Did you talk to Mr. Bauer or anybody at court services about that?
When I first went into the hospital or afterwards?
On or about December 2, when you were supposed to have your meeting, did you contact court services, let them know where you were at?
Yes, after I was released, I didn't have access to all the things I needed. But I did make contact, yes.
Okay. Was that after December 2 or before?
I think it was after, because I was still in the hospital at that time.
Okay. Now, part of your probation requirement was that you do a 1-day anger management class. Have you done the assessment as part of that?
Yes, I have.
When did you do that?
The assessment part I did. I'm not for sure the dates. I know I did take it, the assessment part. But
Okay.
I have not taken the class. Like I said, there's no excuse. It's my health and trying to get transportation, but the fee is also I can't work right now, so it's hard to get that taken care of. But I have noticed that I was going to ask about the online class. I don't think you guys offered that, but I seen that it was credible by Butler County online, but I wasn't for sure, so I wanted to speak with somebody first before I could do that. That would be more. I'd like to take a class online, but whatever the court recommends, I didn't know which one would be accepted if
Okay.
it was.
You talked to your probation officer about doing that online prior to you being remanded to DOC in December of last year?
No, I did not because I wasn't aware of the online course.
You became aware of that after you got out of DOC.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Finally, to the arrested, noted that you were arrested in Butler County on December 12th of 2022, correct?
Yes.
What were you arrested for?
I was arrested for driving unsuspended.
Okay. Why do you say you're arrested for driving unsuspended?
Well, because it wasn't until 3 hours later that they said that I was arrested for marijuana. But the officer never said. He said I asked him why I was arrested. He said for driving unsuspended. And then when I went to jail, I went to court on video court, and it was a WAP charge. And so therefore, in my thinking, because I'm not that smart, but if I go to court and you WAP it, I'm not really arrested for it, or maybe how I would say, I don't know. They say it's like it's just not there anymore, but it is there.
Okay.
But
When did you go to court? Do you remember when you went to court?
It would have been 3 or 4 days after I was arrested. I was detained until the third day, I think it was. I'm not real sure, but 3 days I was in jail. They called me down to the video court and released me on the charges of marijuana. So my thinking is when he asked me, I was arrested for driving unsuspended because that's what the officer told me.
Okay. Now, here's the most important question as far as I'm concerned. You were arrested September 12th, correct? Is that right?
I'm not for sure.
Okay. How long were you in custody when you got arrested?
I believe 3 or 4 days.
Okay. And you were released following a court appearance. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So assuming that the September 12th is correct, that puts
Sorry,
you,
Jim, state the date again.
assuming the September 12 court date is correct, that would have put you out approximately September 16. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Okay. When you were released on the 16th, did you contact court services?
I did for Sedgwick County, yes,
Okay. Did you for Butler County?
because I didn't have any instructions to.
I mean, part of your job, your instructions were to contact them if you were arrested, correct?
Oh, yeah, yes. I contacted my two probation officers in Sedgwick County within 24 hours. And I did call Tony and I left messages, but I never received a call back.
Okay.
So
How did, and this is going to sound like a silly question, but you were released on, do you remember what day of the week it was? Been over a year ago, probably not.
I want to say I was released on a Friday, maybe. I'm not for sure. I don't want to answer that because I don't want
Okay.
to say something that's not true. I can't remember, but I want to say it was a Friday, but I don't remember.
But is your testimony that you contacted court services upon your release and let them know of that arrest, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you did so by leaving a phone message?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you certain of that?
I'm pretty certain that I did because I left, or I have documentation from two other probation officers that I did.
Okay. Over the course of your probation, had you had occasion to leave messages with court services and your probation officer?
I have.
Okay. Were they prompt in getting back with you about those messages?
Not so prompt, but they were still answered in a, I'd like to say that I wish it was sooner, but it wasn't. I often called in because I couldn't remember because of my health at that time I was going through. So I'd call early to make sure that I had the correct date.
Okay.
But
When you contacted them after September 12 and your release after your arrest, you contacted them by phone. Did you get any return call back?
no, not right away. Most of mine and Tony's calls weren't really answered. It was always a call and missed call and call back. So,
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking. You
yes,
contacted court services, correct?
yes,
Was that a machine or a real person?
it was his answering machine.
Okay. So you left a message on a machine. Did you get any return call back acknowledging your call or talking to you about it?
Not until our next meeting.
Which would have been the 22nd.
I'm assuming that would be it. I don't know
Okay.
exactly.
Did your probation officer at that time tell you that he got that message?
No, he did not. I told him. He said he didn't say. I don't remember having a conversation on whether he got the message, but I don't think he said he got the message.
Okay. So you don't have any indication that he got that message?
No.
Okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. Cross-examination, Ms. Norris.
Just one question. Mr. Smithson, if you called Mr. Brower, you're aware that his phone message tells his clients, people like yourself, to continue to call back and that leaving a message is not a contact.
That's correct.
Okay.
I continued to call.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Norris. And anything further, Mr. Watts?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any further evidence to present, Mr. Watts?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
The court has had the opportunity to listen to the testimony of both Court Service Officer Tony Bauer and the defendant Ryan James Smithson, and subsequently the court does find Mr. Smithson to be in violation of the terms and conditions of his probation and recommendations as far as disposition. Ms. Norris.
Your Honor, this is defendant's second warrant to show cause. Defendant has been on supervision since December of 2021. We would be requesting that, and he has previously served a sanction from the previous warrant to show cause back in July of 2022. At this juncture, Your Honor, we would be asking the court to revoke the defendant outright. He has issues with reporting and completing the anger management class. And those were the same violations that he had back in July of 2022 when the court did give him the 3-day sanction and put him back on supervision with court services. So it doesn't appear that we've improved any at all since the sanction the court gave in July. So we would be requesting that the court revoke the defendant outright, and he has approximately somewhere 47, 50 days of jail time credit, from what I can tell. So we would ask that the court revoke and any money still due and owing go to collections.
Thank you, Ms. Norris and Mr. Watts.
Your Honor, this case is one that, well, there's a couple of things that strike me. One is I'd love to tell the court that I hate to put it this way. My experience with court services and community corrections is that return contact is at best hit or miss. My experience with court services, community corrections is that getting messages to probation officers is at best hit or miss. when my client tells me that he made a contact to to court services, letting them know that he was arrested, frankly, I have every reason to believe that's the case. The appointments we missed, it's phrased here as he missed appointments. I think the reality is he missed a appointment in November of 22 and a second on December 2. That's it over the course of that time. Now, the other catch in this is that much of that time in between, Mr. Smithson's been in the Department of Corrections from approximately December 15 to, I say approximately because I don't know exactly what the date of remand to custody from Sedgwick County is. Casper shows he entered DOC on January 18. And so given the time that he was probably back in county jail and awaiting transfer, that probably makes a lot of sense to sometime mid-December of 2022. He's out in August of 2023. I frankly, for the life of me, cannot imagine why in God's green earth he would be picked up on this warrant in August of 2023 and not told to report to his probation officer. But apparently that's what he was told. Don't bother to talk to your probation officer. Had someone said to him, hey, you just got out of prison, you need to go pick up with your probation officer as soon as you get out, we might not be here today. But that's not what they told him. What they told him is, you already got a warrant out, don't bother. And there's a lot of that appears to be, well, you reported your arrest, but it was only a machine. That's not good enough, so don't bother. The other thing that strikes me about this case is I'm trying to figure out what exactly we are accomplishing by remanding him to county jail time at this point, 2 years after he is sentenced on this case and after he has spent approximately 9 months in the Department of Corrections in the meantime. I'm not sure what goal that serves. It certainly doesn't serve any justice goal. So, Judge, our recommendation is that it probably makes sense to close this probation at this point, 2 years later. I don't believe it makes much sense to remand him to custody in the meantime. That strikes me as we remand him to custody because we can, not because we expect to accomplish anything from it. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. The court makes inquiry to Mr. Bauer. Besides the anger management course completion, what, if any, terms and conditions of probation need to be completed by Mr. Smithson?
I believe everything as far as terms and conditions was completed. The case was paid in full. He just continuously missed appointments and stuff. And there was 2 missed appointments on this one, but this was from July until December. It doesn't cover all the appointments missed prior to the warrant to show cause in July. But he just missing appointments, not reporting. But the only condition that wasn't technically completed was the anger management class.
How long does it take to complete an anger management course?
It depends how quick they can get him. He's got 1 day of class he has to do. He only has to do a 1-day class. That was it. But it all depends upon how quick they can get him in as to how long it'll take to complete that. He reported multiple times he had it scheduled. He just never went.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. The court has taken the opportunity to review the court file, and I do show that this matter was taken to jury trial, and Mr. Smithson in 19 CR 473 was acquitted of aggravated burglary. He was found guilty of domestic battery, and he was acquitted of criminal damage to property. So it would appear to me, in relationship to the charge that Mr. Smithson was convicted, an important factor is that he actually enter into and complete anger management in relationship to domestic violence, battery. Therefore, the court orders Mr. Smithson, as opposed to having your probation revoked here today, the court will allow you to complete anger management. Mr. Bauer has advised you have 1 day to complete. It would appear to me that that is something that could be scheduled within approximately the next 60 days, and that you complete the same. And then the court will set this matter back on the warrant to show cause docket. If you have completed that by that date and time, the court at that time would terminate your case, and I would not impose the additional, I believe it's 1 year of jail time upon you, with the court giving you credit for 47 to 50 days of jail time credit toward that jail sentence. Once again, the task is to complete the anger management course prior to the next hearing. I will allow a scheduling during the hearing herein with Mr. Bauer, and that's another important aspect. The court orders you to appear and report to Mr. Bauer when that date and time is set. The court will allow Mr. Bauer at this time to check his schedule, and Mr. Smithson, for you to check your calendar to set that time in regards to confirmation of the anger management course. Mr. Bauer?
Yeah, sure. You just want me to set a day for him to check in to let me know if it's completed? Is that what you're wanting?
Yes.
Okay. December 28th is about 45 days from now. And it's a Thursday. If he could call me that day.
I think that this may be necessary to have a personal appearance.
Okay. The 29th is a
been-
Friday.
Pardon me?
The 29th is a Friday, and I will be in El Dorado that day.
So would December 29, would that be appropriate day for an appointment in person by Mr. Smithson to come in to bring his confirmation of his completion of anger management?
Yes, that'd be fine. My only question is, do they do the certification? Is that done by mailing it, or am I going to get a copy of it? How do I prove it to him? So I need to know what steps to take, because if I know when I called on some of them, they just emailed the certificate over to Mr. Bauer when it's complete. So
Well, Mr. Smithson, if I were you, upon completion of the anger management program, I would ask for a physical confirmation that you've completed that anger management course, that you personally take that to Mr. Bauer and provide that as proof of the requirement. Because if you don't, then the court is still taking under advisement whether your probation should be revoked and the balance of a 1 year jail time sentence imposed less your jail time credit. So I'm making the recommendation you get the actual physical confirmation that you completed the anger management program, that you come in on the date, and I believe that's been set as December 29, that you personally give that to Mr. Bauer, because if you don't do that, then you're going to have to appear back before the court, and the court on the warrant to show cause docket at that time, in all likelihood, would revoke your probation through court services and order you to serve the balance of your jail time, which give or take is going to be about 10 months.
Actually, Your Honor, the underlying sentence in this case is 6 months, not 12 months. And what is our next court date?
Court stands corrected. You're going to have to serve about 4 months. And the next date for warrant to show cause in January 2024,
It's January 19th.
January 19 at 2:30. And
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Smithson, if you don't get that complete and done, then you're going to be back here and you're going to be serving about, give or take, 4 months. I stand corrected. And if you do get it complete, the court orders termination of your case at that time. Now, Mr. Smithson, do you have any questions in regards to the tasks that are before you?
No, the only question I have is the paper that he filled out for me. Now I'm to contact Tony Bauer on December 29th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Not before, not after, just December 29th. That's our meeting. That's our meeting.
All right, I need one person talking at a time, and we did not set a time.
December 29th at 1:15 here in my office in El Dorado.
December 29 at 1:15 in the El Dorado Court Services office in the Butler County Judicial Center. Oh, wait, that's the wrong address. Do you know where court service office in El Dorado is,
Yes, I do.
Mr. Smithson?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, he's currently in the courthouse, so he knows where the courthouse is as well.
Very well. It's the same building.
If I may, Your Honor, just two things.
Yes.
First off, Mr. Smithson, when you get that paper certificate that you have completed your anger management class, I agree with the court. I would hand deliver that to Mr. Bauer. I would also retain a copy for yourself. Okay, so burn a copy of it. They can probably burn a copy of it there in the court services office. You make sure you retain a copy for yourself. There was one other thing. Oh, Do you know where you need to go to get that course done?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you have a place to go to get this thing done.
I do have a place to go, yes.
Okay,
But like I said, my only question was December 29th is the only date on here, so I don't need to call Tony. I don't need to do anything except get this class done and meet with him on the 29th. Is that correct?
Mr. Smithson, that is correct.
Okay,
I
I just
am
wanted
not-
to make sure.
I am not burdening court services with trying to get you to make calls, with trying to call back off of voicemails. You have one goal and objective. The
Okay.
goal is to complete your anger management course. The objective is to stay out of jail for give or take 4 months. Now, any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. There being nothing further to come before the court, court is in recess, and good luck to you, Mr. Smithson.
Thank you, Your Honor.